So, welcome to the channel. It's going to be a bit more ARMS, and I'm Jon Denton. And this time, I'm very, very lucky to be joined by none other than one of the very best ARMS players currently in the world, I would say, based on the fact that he is smashing the top levels in ranked. And it's 101LEAFY. You may well have seen his streams. He's been doing amazing work. And I noticed, Leafy, that you've amassed 180 plus hours already on ARMS. When I accepted your friend's request, I saw your profile, which is some going.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John. First of all, it's kind of a funny coincidence because I have been watching your videos since you first started, so it's
That's
cool
amazing.
to be on here. I got the game 3 weeks pre-release, so I've had some time to put a little more than most people. So I haven't played it inhuman 180 hours in 1 week, but I have been playing this game pretty much as often as I can. It's a really interesting new take on fighting games. It's kind of the same sort of application that Nintendo did to the shooter genre with Splatoon, so I was instantly attracted to it.
Yeah, I mean, when they first announced it during the first Switch presentation, I kind of ignored it and wrote it off, like many people did, I think, just as a Wii boxing nothing. And then I was reading an interview or an article, and I noticed it was being produced and directed by the same people as Mario Kart 8, and that kind of made me sit up and take notice a little bit more, just because, I mean, that is truly one of the best games ever made, I think. And yeah, ever since then I've been very keen in keeping up on everything, and then just getting my hands on it with the test punch and now with the final thing. It's I think it's absolutely superb, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. ARMS is, I know people say this about a lot of games these days, so it sounds kind of cliche or markety, but ARMS really is one of those games that you need to play yourself in order to really get.
100%. Absolutely. So, with 180 hours amassed, and you can see, have you hit rank 15 yet? I didn't watch today's stream.
So I've been playing this game exclusively with motion controls. I've tried out traditional controls for like a few hours just to see how I like them. And in my opinion, motion controls are better. So I played ranked mode exclusively with motion controls, got to rank 15, and I'm the first person that I know of to get to rank 15 using motion.
Look at that. That's amazing. So what are you noticing now at kind of the top levels? I noticed, I've watched some of your streams, and you do seem to be, the same names keep cropping up, which, if nothing else, is proof that you are really up there with the top players in the world. But what are you noticing in terms of trends that are happening right now at high level in ARMS?
So ARMS' matchmaking is interesting because, and I'm sure that since this is by the Mario Kart 8 guys, this was sort of in response to people complaining about Mario Kart connections. Ranked mode will only match you up with people who are geographically close to you. Right. So I'm only matched up with people who are in this sort of central time zone here. Or if you're on East Coast, you'll only be matched up with East Coast people. And Japan players are only matched up with other players in Japan. But one big trend that I've noticed most people are using, whether it was the very first rank 15 player ever to hit rank 15 was a Japanese player, they were using Kid Cobra with double bub. And it's too early to make huge balance statements about the game, of course. It's only been out for a couple weeks now. I mean, I'm sure we all remember when people were saying Little Mac was overpowered in Smash 3DS. But one big thing is that no matter what, Bub seems to be a pretty strong arm, is a very safe statement. And it is for a few reasons, mainly when used on Kid Cobra. So Kid Cobra is an extremely mobile character, right? He has the slowest walking speed in the game, tied with Mechanica and Master Mummy, but unlike them, he can still move extremely fast. His airspeed is the highest in the game, outclassing even Ninjara's, and his Cobra dashes, which is what I call the charge dashes that he can chain consecutively with no lag in between them, allow him to move around the stage faster than anybody else. So what this means is, okay, yeah, sure, he has the slowest walking speed, but he's certainly not the slowest character. Yeah. And what the developers did was, they gave the slower walking characters bigger arms. So for example, Min Min has the smallest arms in the game because she gets her back kick and this thing, I guess, and then her dragon arm can turn it to size 5. So notice how when I charge, hang on, so see how little my Seiki is right now? If I charge it, whoa, my Seiki is really big. So the only character in the game to have size 5 arms is, of course, Master Mummy, because he's really slow. But there's actually a second character with size 5 arms, and that's Kid Cobra. So Kid Cobra will get in your face, and weird. So that alone is kind of annoying. But he has these giant arms, so he's going to be punching through everything that you have, but only if he has arms of weight that clashes with your arms or exceeds it. So, for example, my Siki and my Whammer can take out any of your arms that you have because Siki is medium and Chilla is medium, so they clash, and the Whammer is heavy, so it outclasses your light Hydra and medium Chilla, right? So the Bub is medium weight, and it's really fast. So that alone goes really well with Kid Cobra because he has these big arms that are medium weight, so they can clash with most arms in the game, and they're pretty fast. But that's not all. When the Bub is charged, it gets even bigger. So it's extremely difficult to dodge. It's super spammable because it's so fast that it's a little difficult to punish. And overall, it's a strategy that I'm not going to say it's like the strongest or overpowered or anything, but it's powered due to its very low skill floor and the fact that it's sort of difficult to counter. So that was sort of a long-winded explanation for sure, but that is the biggest trend that I'm seeing. That's the biggest trend. The first player to get to rank 15 and actually max out the rank bar was a Japanese player using Kid Cobra. And like 90% of the players I see on ranked are using Kid Cobra, and I'd say at least 80% of Cobras are using Bub.
So have you figured out any strategies for coping with that?
Oh, that was a good grab. So yes, sort of. You'll notice that I'm experimenting with Whammer right now, and I've sort of been doing that in my last couple of streams and stuff because some viewer, I forget who, or I would mention their name here, but they commented in my streams, or the comments after the VOD was uploaded, and they said, "Hey Leafy, have you tried using Whammer?" And I thought about that for a second. And at first I kind of laughed. And I was like, oh, Whammer. They're probably joking because everyone just kind of jokes about Whammer because it's this big, silly, squeaky hammer that's really slow. But then I started thinking for a few moments. And I was like, wait, so when I fight Whammer, I have a lot of difficulty against it because it's so big and it's so heavy that I'll even try and rush and I'll mess up the timing and the Whammer will block my rush and knock me out of it. So if all these Cobras are doing is spamming punches, they don't shield or parry or grab you or anything, they just spam punches, then having these enormous arms that are going to knock down their arms, pierce through them, and punish the opponent with a ton of damage, one of the strongest arms in the game, well, that might not actually be a bad strategy. So I was playing ranked, and I came across this guy that usually gives me a lot of trouble. Believe it or not, he was actually playing Twintel. Lose to this guy anyways. Why not get a little crazy? So I picked Whammer. I chose double Whammer because what this guy does is, even though he doesn't play Cobra, he has a very Cobra-like playstyle where he'll get right in your face and use double toasters and just punch, punch, punch. So he would send out both his toasters, and I'd just charge up my Dragon Whammer and make this huge hammer that pierced through his arms. And I don't think I perfected him, but I got pretty close both rounds. So after that, I started taking the Whammer more seriously because that was a pretty good result against aggro. And although I can't say that I'm entirely consistent with it right now, as you can see there's a few gaps with the way that I'm playing for sure. I think that once I get better with using the Whammer and I learn how it moves, because it has a bit of an awkward movement, then I'll certainly be able to use it really well against the more aggressive players.
Yeah, that's also my second character is Mechanica, so I was basically using the Whammers from day one, and yeah, against aggressive people, you know, at the lower ranks you get a lot of grab spammers, so I would just wait for them to throw out their grab and then hit them with 2 Whammers every single time, and I was just winning time after time like that.
And Mechanica is kind of an interesting point to bring up because most tournaments are going to be run using only default arms, right? Because unfortunately, getting the custom arms is really inhibitive. So most people have agreed to run tournaments with default arms. Well, Cobra, although you might say Cobra doesn't have Bub, so he probably won't be as oppressive, Cobra still has Hydra. And Hydra is an extremely powerful arm, while also being, I was hoping that would shield break. It's also a very large one because it's super vertical, it's great for catching people jumping. So they're probably going to go with the same type of rapid fire strategy that you see Cobra users using in ranked. And now Mechanica has exclusive access to the Whammer. I think her and Max Brass, who gets the explosive Whammer, could be pretty good counters against Cobra.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So, I mean, obviously you're nearly 200 hours in and at the highest level. Are you planning on taking those skills into the competitive scene?
Any tournaments near me, then I'll totally be attending. I'm not I'm not sure if there will be or not, but I'm keeping an eye out. So there'll probably be some sort of Chicago tournament that I can attend. Should be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So it says on your profile you're a Nintendo brand ambassador. What does that mean exactly?
It's sort of a funny story that doesn't really have any relation to ARMS, so I won't go into too much detail about that, but it's basically saying that I'm a contractor for Nintendo that helps spread the words about their games because they will send me review copies of their games, and in exchange, I will review them or do some sort of other coverage that talks about them. For example, Mario Kart 8 actually did a formal review of, but ARMS, I felt like that would have been too repetitive because I'd already done a couple of streams. I'd already said tons and tons about every aspect of the game, especially on the second pre-release stream that I did. So I tend to not really do things that I feel don't really need to be done, especially by me. So I held off on a review from that, but as you can see, I've been doing a lot of coverage. So you aren't necessarily forced to create a formal review, but they do send you review copies for covering purposes. And it's not really much more complicated than that. It's fun, for sure.
Yeah, it's cool. It's kind of a new gig, sort of somewhere in between press and, like you say, someone who works directly for the company, like in influencer space. It's kind of a new thing.
Yeah, I think you said it best. It's certainly new. From what I can tell, and it's a good in between press and public. Oh, I didn't even realize how low my health was here. I should have saved that.
So I was trying to just distract you with questions.
It's a good strategy. That and looking at chat when streaming that's the top strategy there.
So in all your streams you've been playing as Min Min, all the ones I've watched anyway. Are you using any other characters? Are you experimenting with any other characters at the moment?
Every other character when I first got the game. Basically, the first thing that I did was I completed Grand Prix on level 7 with every character because I was hoping I could max brass. Right. But unfortunately, he's the first DLC character, which is free, by the way. DLC is kind of a weird word for me to use. But when doing that, I got a better understanding of every character, which was nice. I'm not playing my best here, though. And ultimately, when I first saw Min Min, I was like, whoa, she looks really cool. I love the fact that your arm can be a dragon. So I kind of I'll have to experiment with her. And at the end, I was like, I think I like Min Min the best because part of this game, I've hit you, like here, I've hit you with electricity a lot of times. And here, you hit me with the ice. And ice is strong because it turns what your opponent is about to do into a 50-50. They're either going to punch or they're going to grab, or they're going to shield. So with punching and grabbing, you can punch through it. Or with shielding, you can grab. They can't dodge. You don't have to say, oh, am I going to punch right? Am I going to punch left? All that you have to think about when you freeze your opponent is, do I punch or do I grab? And that really depends what's your arm's weight, what's your opponent's habits. That was awful. That was god-awful. That was really bad. I'm talking about reading your opponent, and I just mess up. So it's interesting because ice can get you some good damage, and so can electricity. So Min Min's left arm and its ability to be permanently charged as long as you aren't knocked down, I feel like it's one of the strongest, or stronger, I'll say, is it's sort of just like a better statement, I guess, in the game. Stronger abilities in the game. Incredible. It's very risky to use in the air because it leaves you airborne for so long, so it's pretty punishable. And her backdash has way more lag than a normal dash, so you kind of have to use it selectively. But the dragon arm in itself is just such a powerful ability to have. So you get 240 damage combo from the stun. Sorry, go.
Sorry, on Min Min, are you going to be playing with anybody else, do you think, in ranked? Are you ever going to switch it up or just stick with her?
Really do expand rank, add more ranks, then why am I jumping? I might think about switching it up with a different character. For sure, I'm considering creating a Max Brass account once Max Brass releases because I think he looks like a really interesting character, especially with his new arms. So I'll certainly be using him a lot when he first comes out. He has a lot of abilities to play with. His default arms are really interesting. 2 of them can't curve, but in exchange, they get the most damage in the entire game. So he's a cool character.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to him coming out, definitely.
Okay, I should drop the whammer after this set. I need to go back to my classic. Whammer's not that great against Twintel, in my opinion. You might notice that I like using Seiki against Twintel, and that's because I feel like it kind of counters the Witch Time. I'm not entirely sure how well it does, but even when you slow it down, aiming. So hang on, it's kind of complicated to explain, but when you throw out your punch, right, you curve it one way, and it's just kind of curving that, and Witch Time slows that down. I don't think it has an official name, so I just call it Witch Time, like Bayonetta's. But Seiki, right, you send it out, and it has one trajectory while it's homing in. But when you freeze it, I think it does a sharper curve to adapt to the fact that it's slowed down. So it's going to hit more often than most arms. Yeah, and that's also why I choose Buff. Because Buff is basically the same thing as Bub, except it homes in, which is both good and bad. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. I just choose the Buff.
I knew that was coming. What am I doing jumping in?
Way of landing rushes that I found is punishing jumps, but it's a bit difficult to do that with Twintel.
Whoa!
Break. I should have landed that, but I messed up. There we go.
And if you're, I'm assuming a lot of people are going to watch this video kind of from the ARMS community, but there'll be a lot of people as well who are on the fence about the game, or maybe have played it a little bit. Is there any sort of advice that you could give somebody who's maybe just still struggling with rank 4 in Grand Prix, which I think everybody did, to be fair, at first, because it was a bit of a step up in difficulty. They want to get into the game, but they're worried also about people already being too experienced and taking them out in ranks. What sort of key bits of advice would you give someone at that level?
So one thing that really intrigued me about ARMS when it was first announced is that it's an entirely new type of fighting game. So the playing field is pretty even. Obviously, just basic fighting game fundamentals come into play here, especially spacing with the length of your arms. But it's so accessible due to the fact that everybody's starting off pretty even. So even if you're starting a couple weeks late, if you're just now able, I messed up there, you're just now able to find a switch and get into the game, don't worry, because with just a bit of practice, you'll be able to rank up pretty fast. And if you're discouraged, if you're having a lot of trouble even just clearing Grand Prix, my advice is try out a different control scheme. If you're trying out traditional controls, try out motion controls. If you're trying out motion, try out traditional, because motion isn't for everyone. I know back when Splatoon released, a lot of people were resistant to the gyro controls. And those same people were complaining, I'm really bad at Splatoon, I can't rank up, I keep getting crushed, I feel like I can't aim at my opponents. And then when they picked up the gyro, hey, around with the control schemes for sure.
What's going to be interesting, I think, is when it does, the next level of competitive scene games come out. Like when the first major tournaments, I was trying to concentrate there. When the first major tournaments for ARMS start happening after the E3 Invitational, it's going to be interesting to see, especially when they're third-party run, what controls people are using. I'm going to assume that most people are going to be on Pro Controller like me, but like you say, the first person I watched at a high level in ARMS on YouTube was you, and I hit you up on Twitter to ask what controls you are using, and I was amazed that you were using motion controls, because I'd been having this internal debate. I thought, okay, it's definitely all about traditional controls, and then I watched the E3 Invitational and watched what Yabuki-san did with the motion controls, and I was like, damn, is it going to be like Splatoon, where I think that I know what I'm doing by using traditional controls, but I'm actually hindering myself? So it's going to be really interesting to see what all the, how it all pans out in the end.
Oh, I completely agree. I think that Yabuki really demonstrated to the people saying you can't play at a high level with motion that you can. And it's kind of surprising, right? Because these are the Mario Kart 8 guys that everybody spams, I'm using tilt controls in the lobbies just as a joke, because it's so uncompetitive, aside from the fact that I think it alters your traction. But here, they actually, I guess they took motion controls more seriously, and I think it works. It's super intuitive.
So for people who've abandoned motion controls, I'd imagine most people probably tried them a bit in the test punch and then, chucked them away after a few hours. What advantages do you have beyond just the sort of greater dexterity of curve and things like that? Is there anything else that you really enjoy about the motion controls?
Maybe kind of super low level, because really high level ARMS players won't have to worry about this in the future. But I feel like with traditional controls, I'm focusing more on how I'm aiming my arms, because of the fact that I can't aim them individually. So I really have to focus, okay, so now I'm sending it out to the right because I have to alter the path of my current arm, if that makes sense. But with motion controls, it's immediately, I want to do this because I want to do this, and I'm going to do this with my other arm. Doesn't matter what my right arm is doing. I'm going to cast my left arm all the way out to the left just because I want to. And that feeling of not being restricted, being able to do exactly what you want with both arms, and having it be so intuitive, so precise. Once you get good at it, you can see how I can like sort of wiggle my buff here. It's just a tremendous advantage. Now, I know you said advantages other than dexterity, and unfortunately, there aren't any. They both, both control options have their pros and cons, with the Pro Controller being a lot better for movement. Sometimes when I'm streaming, you'll hear me go, oh, okay. And when I do that, it's because I meant to do something like guard, and I accidentally did something else. Because motion control. So like I'll mean to guard, but I'll tilt my controllers too far, and I'll start walking, and then I'll just like walk into someone's rush. But you know, here's the thing. That's just because that was an awful rush. That's just because I haven't practiced enough. Once I get everything down perfectly, then the whole user input error issue isn't going to matter much. That's only mattering because I haven't had enough experience with arms, enough training with this control scheme to really eliminate those errors. So I feel like that won't be a factor in the future.
Are any of the other players at your level using motion controls? I think you mentioned that you're the only one, right? That you know of.
That I know of. I think... So there are 2 helixes in rank 15. And in my opinion, the general consensus actually is that Helix greatly benefits from motion controls. Helix is a lot worse off with motion. I'm going to have to ask them. Gormagala and Linkable are their names. They're like the only 2 Helix players in the world, and they're both really good. So I'll have to ask them what control schemes they use. But I think they both use Pro Controllers, actually. Right. Outside of that, I don't even know of anybody that might use Pro Controller. Or sorry, motion controls. Everybody else uses Pro Controller or Joy-Con grip.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Why not?
I'm really interested to hear your take on this. Where do you think the game's going to go in the future? Seemingly, it's done pretty well. Obviously, it's not an absolute runaway success, but I was happy to see some of those sales numbers coming out of Japan being healthy. And Nintendo does seem to be getting behind it and has been behind it pretty much since day one. So, where do you see this game in 6 to 12 months?
ARMS has a lot of good things going for it. That's very exciting. I don't know if you saw, but there was an article that I read that was saying ARMS has the best sales out of any fighting game, and I think the past like 7 years or something. It was enormous. So ARMS immediately starts off with the great benefit of having a large player base. So even though I don't find many matches in high rank, that's not really the case for low rank. You're going to fight a lot of very players, I feel like. Especially in party match, which will match you up with anybody around the world. So people are going to have lots of people to play with. They're not going to have this issue of, oh, I can't find a match. So it's instantly accessible because of that. There's no complaints about the online. In addition to that, you have Nintendo themselves behind it. Like you said, Nintendo has the wonderful new Nintendo Versus account. Big thank you to whoever launched that, because that's really cool. Seeing them have this Twitter account centered around esports, basically, and showing that they intend to do even more exciting tournaments in the future. So Nintendo will be actively promoting, actively showing off ARMS, getting more people into the game when they see this type of play. I mean, I'm sure you saw everybody on Twitter like, wow, I have to get ARMS now that I saw Yubuki-san play it, right? In fact, in future tournaments, that was kind of close. But not only that, they have the sort of Splatoon model. And Yabuki in an interview actually said they weren't influenced by Splatoon, but it is a similar model, so I do like to compare it to it because I feel like it's going to have a similar effect. For those of you who don't know, ARMS is going to have DLC monthly, but when people say DLC, it's actually completely free. You don't have to pay for a bit of it. It's just like Splatoon. So every month, ARMS is going to get either a new character stage in 3 ARMS or a new game mode, is basically what they were talking about. Because this month we got Spectator mode, and next month we're getting Max Brass' stage in 3 ARMS. So I'm guessing they'll alternate, because Yabuki said he wants to add even more game modes. That's just my prediction, though. They might like go 2 characters in a row and then a game mode or something. But either way, they're going to update the game monthly. They're going to add exciting stuff. And with such a small cast, not necessarily that that's bad, but 30 arms and 10 characters, 1 character, 3 arms, and 1 stage, that's huge. That's a 10% increase across the board of things to play around with. So they're going to keep re-engaging all of the players, even players who drop the game, such as after Splatoon 2 comes out, I guarantee you they'll have a nice big update in August with either a fun game mode or a new character that will draw back in players that went over to Splatoon for a while. And they're going to keep the ARMS player base alive. So overall, Nintendo's combining all of these different aspects to, I don't want to say ensure, because ensure is a strong word, but they're certainly doing everything they can to try and make ARMS a success. And I think it's going to work.
Yeah, I agree. I think it helps that the game does speak for itself when people play it, and everybody that I know who's into the FGC and has been playing fighting games since they're young, every time they get their hands on it, they're extremely impressed. Oh, I thought I had you at the end there.
Which is how you grabbed me there, because I just like put my controllers down. Good to hear people are impressed, though. I know sometimes with the new IP, people can just kind of be inherently biased, just, oh no, it's new. But now that ARMS is out and people are giving it a chance, I think people are really seeing what makes it unique.
Absolutely. So I won't keep you for too much longer, Leafy. I'm just going to ask you probably 1 or 2 more questions, if that's all right. And I think one, just from a purely selfish point of view, is that we've been playing now for around 30 minutes. Is there any advice you could give me on my game?
Okay, so I noticed that you use Twintel's Which Time Air Dash a lot, which is it's a very important part of Twintel's moveset, for sure. And one interesting aspect of it that I see you aren't utilizing a lot is that you can air dash in a different direction than you performed your first air dash. So if you air dash to the left and hold the button, you can change your control stick direction and really juke out your opponent. So that's one good part. But just keep in mind that jumping is the most punishable action in the game. You don't want to do it a lot. You'll actually notice me use jump as a panic button because it gets you moving. Don't do that. That's a habit that I'm trying to stop, and I'm working on it. You'll see that I've gotten better at it over the past few days, or the past week, but it's still a major issue for sure. Don't jump a lot. Try to stay on the ground, especially because if you hold the dash button as Swintel, you can still do your time slow on the ground, and you can instantly just throw out your arms as a counter for that. So those are my 2 main things. Don't jump, and if you do, make sure to utilize the juking potential of Twintel's dash. That was good. Good dodge.
Oh, I got it.
Hopefully that helped.
That's really awesome advice. Thank you. And I think the most important question, once again, thanks so much for coming on this video. I've really enjoyed it. Where can people see you? People who, I'm sure most people watching this will have come here from your channel and your background, but for my audience, where can they find you on YouTube?
You can find me at youtube.com/101LEAFY, Leafy, and I'm also on Twitter under the same name.
So would you like one more game just to round out the video?
Yeah, let's go.
Fantastic.
Buster Beach, nice. I like the stage.
Yeah, I do. Although I always get stuck thinking I can dodge on that little platform and then getting stuck there.
Platform will block my arms sometimes, and I get frustrated because I didn't aim them correctly. I've had it block like Hydro Rush before. I'll send it out and it'll just stop it.
So what's your plan? You're rank 15 now, you've hit that goal. In terms of content around ARMS, are you still planning on doing more? Is this going to be something that you're sticking with on your channel?
So now that I've gotten to rank 15 on ARMS, I can certainly say that I have a good grasp of the game. So I'm going to come out with more video guides, more analysis. I am analyzing frame data and all of that fun stuff. And I'll also just create some general guides. For example, one thing that I have in mind is a guide on punishable actions. So it's saying, okay, so when you land, you actually can't do anything for a few frames. And I want to count that. When you dash, things like that, I need to test that. Yeah. Or character specific, for example, Twintel. How long is she going to be weak between her dashes? When can you get her when she isn't slowing down time? Or how long does Springman's Shockwave last? Those kinds of things. But in addition to that, Of course, I'll still be keeping up streaming at the same time, 11 a.m. Central. But this time, from now on, I'll be fighting viewers because I feel like when I'm playing in ranked and I'm fighting the same like 5 people and 4 of those are Kid Cobra using double bub, I'm not really learning a lot. So even though all the viewers that I fight aren't rank 15, I'm fighting such a different range of people that I'm learning a lot more. And it's a lot more fun because it's not super high pressure. So those are my plans for ARMS.
And then what are you moving on to next, past ARMS on your channel?
After ARMS is going to be Splatoon 2, but I'll still do stuff for ARMS when they release updates.
Yeah. But
I'll shift focus to Splatoon.
Amazing. Well, once again, yeah, thanks so much for coming on. It's been really fun. Hopefully we can do it again, perhaps when new content does drop. We can hook up again and have a chat. Maybe
I would love to.
After it's dropped. That'd be brilliant.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure. And yeah, make sure everybody who's watching this go, if you're interested in ARMS or generally just, you know, like Leafy style, I'm sure you will. Make sure you go and find him on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. You've been having like loads of success recently on the channel, haven't you? It's like the subscribers and stuff are going up really fast.
Yeah, very excited. I actually doubled in subscribers this past month, which was surprising to say the least. I was really scared you'd grab there.
Yeah, I tried to, but I did the little 1-2 instead. Oh, that was
good. Seeky buff. I'm not sure about Seeky buff. Oh, sorry, whammer buff. It's a little too slow for me, having the whammer on the left arm there without like a Hydra on the right.
Yeah, I need to experiment with more arms, really. I brought in Hydra finally. I was never really getting on with Parasol. I know it's one of the default arms, so I feel like it should be something I was good with, but unless the person never moved, I didn't really have much success with it. Maybe it's better on motion controls, but yeah.
Parasol is tough to use. It seems like it should be offensive due to how it accelerates and the fact that it's wind. I want to use it reactively since it's very large and very heavy. It's kind of a shield, like a mini guardian of sorts.
Yeah.
Nice guard.
Ooh.
One arm that I used to use but don't use anymore is Revolver. I'm not entirely sure why. I think that my electricity focus just sort of shifted to Seeky, and since you can only have 3 arms, I sort of dropped Revolver. But I don't know more lately because it is pretty good. Even though it's light, you get the 3 shots, so it will beat out arms like Hydra or Popper or Cracker, which is just kind of a better Popper. Stuck here, you've trapped me. There we go. Free.
No.
Nice.
That was a great game.
Wake up.
Well, brilliant. Thank you so much once again. I think this has been a really enjoyable video. Make sure, if you're watching, do leave a like and leave a comment on the video. Let me know about your strategies in ARMS, and make sure you go and check out Leafy stuff. And of course, if you haven't enjoyed the video, then please do subscribe to this channel as well. Okay, thanks very much, Leafy. Leafy, is that all right to call you, by the way, after 40 minutes talking to you?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and thank you guys for watching.
Cool. All right. Peace.